Hello, sisters. Welcome back to the Sisterhood Spotlight series, where I bring on a member who's really inspiring of my personal sisterhood, who's a total expert in her field. And today we have Jaclyn Wallach with us. She is an incredible intuitive empowerment coach, and she and I are in the Sisterhood Mastermind together with Janine Yoder. It's for coaches only. So we've been on a really unique journey together. She and I have been for the past few months. Also, we've studied in Mentor Masterclass, our coaching program together. So this is a really exciting experience. I'm super excited to have her here today and to share her unique brilliance with you. She is absolutely phenomenal, and I can't wait for her to share more about what she does. So I'll toss it over to you, and I'd love for you to explain to everyone watching today what it is that you do and what's unique about it, and who you work with, and just a little bit about your business.
Yeah, awesome. So hello, ladies. I'm so excited, Emily, to be able to be doing this with you. This is awesome. But so that way you guys get to know me a little bit more. I teach women how to actually listen to their bodies as a gateway to their intuition. But I do that in order for them to be able to live their life's purpose and actually make it their business. And what I mean by that is that it's actually twofold. So the first part of making it their business is that it's really their mindful embodiment of who they are and how they can actually live their every single day life, living their purpose, and what that would look like. Like, how do they wake up every single day? How are they taking care of themselves? What makes them feel really good? And how is that in line with why they are actually put here on earth, or what their meaning or their reason for wanting to be here on earth and make that impact? And then the other side of it is to make it their business, is that their purpose can actually be a livelihood for them. It can create abundance. It can create a life and business that feels really good and powerful. And all of this is in service to both themselves and to others. And so I teach these women how to kind of encompass all of that. And it all starts with understanding your body's intuition. And that's exactly how I work, and I love it. And that's how I live as well.
Beautiful. And just so you guys know, at the time we're filming this, we both just attended an amazing retreat with our mentor and a bunch of other women who are coaches, and we all had to do speeches. It was called Captivate, and Jaclyn was so beautifully embodied in her speech, and it was like flooring. I think I almost like cried, if I didn't cry during it, because apparently I'm really emotional now these days. But I want you to really experience the brilliance that she brings to the table. And so the first thing I'd love to know, Jaclyn, is I want you to share your experience that you shared with us at Captivate, because I want everybody to know how amazing this journey has been for you and what it's looked like. So how did you really learn that your body is the gateway of intuition in the first place?
Yeah, that's a really awesome question. I actually grew up with really bad anxiety, and I was always freaking out about something, and I was told I was too sensitive, and that, I wasn't really, what's the word? I was told a few times, and it was a little bit hurtful, that I was a little bit too sensitive and that sometimes I was crazy, which was very hurtful. And I kind of grew up that way. And when I went to college, a lot of it subsided. But then when I went back to graduate school and I started doing my work, I had horrible and terrible anxiety and panic attacks. And I literally would have them in the middle of the classroom. And sometimes my students would watch me, and trust me, it was really embarrassing. But it was also the moment where I realized that A, something had to change. But B, that I couldn't live with anxiety anymore in a way that was detrimental to essentially my life and my quality of life. And so I decided to go to a yoga therapist. And at this time, I actually had practice in yoga, and I had, and by practice, I mean I was also a certified yoga teacher, and I was also a Reiki practitioner. So I understood the energetic bodies, but there was something so separate about them. It was like, that was my spiritual life, and then the rest of my life was this. It was anxiety. It was something I couldn't control. And I actually didn't even want to be in my body. I didn't want to be present. I didn't want to experience everything that was happening. And so when I went to this yoga therapist, I sat down with her, and she had asked me, so how are you feeling? And I told her I'm anxious. And it was one of the most mind-blowing things. She had said to me, okay, so you're anxious. So just so you know, the word anxiety, the base of that word actually comes from a word meaning a twisted rope. So let's begin to unravel that rope and understand what all of that is. So I was able to, for the first time, to also look at my anxiety. And I realized, especially at work, I was feeling really guilty. I was feeling really sad. I was feeling really angry. And then she asked me each time I had mentioned an emotion, where in my body do I feel it? And because of my background in Reiki and yoga, I was pretty easily able to drop into my body. But it was the first time that I ever realized that I could actually have a conversation with the energetic systems of my body if I wanted to, and really begin to utilize it as a way to access my own intuition. And it wasn't just some far off thing, or like it only happened every so often, or I can only do it if I close my eyes and like maybe an image decided to show up and that was my intuition. Mm-hmm. My body, especially as a human, is the gateway to being an intuitive, and every single person has that. It's not something that only I'm born with or a few people are born with. We all have this. And because of that, it led me to leaving my job, finding the Mentor Masterclass, what would you call it? The Mentor Masterclass study, and to become a life coach, because there was something calling me to bring me to that point. And it's kind of led me here with you today because I met you through that. So it's really an incredible thing what our bodies can tell us and the paths that it can take us on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was saying before we started filming too, I have had the most amazing week this week, and I really attribute that to being so much more in tune with my body, with my soul, with my intuition, and letting that run the show instead of my mind and the fear and the thought and the ego that comes up to try to control everything. And from that place of soul and intuition and really connecting with our purpose, it's so like everything just flows so much easier. So I'd love for you to explain to the ladies who are watching, and maybe even some men who are watching, whoever happens to be watching, how is the body actually, like what is the background that you, because I know you're really knowledgeable about this too, and like energy meridians, and you are a Reiki practitioner as well. So tell us a little bit about how the body like physically can actually be the gateway to intuition.
Yeah, awesome. So a lot of people, not everybody, but there's a lot of speculation like, how can your body be a gateway to intuition? How does your body have energy centers? What is all this about chakras and all of these things? And the really interesting thing, which I love, is that I really feel like science is kind of catching up with these thousands and thousands of year old philosophies, and they're really kind of proving a lot of these things. And so our body is, in addition to having a giant brain that is so powerful that we don't even use the entire thing to begin with, but our body is also comprised of billions upon billions of neurons that travel throughout the entire body, and they are the extension of the brain. And everything is energy. So if we have these neurons that are moving throughout the body, they're actually communicating from different parts of our body back to our mind, back to our brain, essentially. And if we're really kind of just sticking up here and only thinking from this space, then we're not really utilizing the information that can really be given to the rest of our body. And each part of our body, like everything is energy, like scientifically speaking, like even this solid cup right here, this is energy. Everything vibrates, everything is atoms, everything is all of this. And when you have all of these things vibrating and moving, like they're sending a message, just like thoughts are a message, emotions are a message. Emotions are also vibrations in the body. So if even like my communication to you, that's a vibration, right? Like it has to travel through air so that way you can hear me. So if we're able to tap into our body's neurological system and actually start feeling the sensations, and then really bringing that up to a more cognitive level, and even engaging into a conversation with it, you'll be surprised at some of the really beautiful things you can discover. And they're never complicated things. They're always very simple but profound things that you'll hear.
Mm-hmm. What's an example of something that you might hear, like, from that source of intuition and from listening into your body?
Yeah, well, it depends on what you're asking. Your intuition can tell you, like, how does your body need to move? Mm-hmm. And so if you just kind of move from here into your body, being like, what would feel good to move right now? It can just be like, I just need to twist. And you'll realize that even just twisting, you're opening up so much. Your back will feel so much better. Your internal organs will feel so much better. So something as physical as that. But then when we go even further, like even a bigger, broader, more ethereal perspective of like, how can I make a choice? Like, what feels right? What's the right way to go? A lot of times we'll feel what happens is in the body, especially in muscle tension or our bodies itself, will react when there's something that just doesn't feel right, or we're scared, or it's just wrong. And I teach my clients the difference between fear-based tension and maybe that's not the way to go tension, and this is the way to go expansiveness. And so, for example, like if you want to make a decision about, let's say a coaching program, for example, like that's the first thing that came to mind. A lot of times people might be a little bit worried. And so I will talk to my clients about, or to people who are trying to make this decision, okay, so where in your body do you feel this tension? Like when you're thinking about this, where do you feel tension in your body? And a lot of times it might be the heart, it might be the shoulders, it might be like a hip or something, or as I like to call it, the womb space, the sacral chakra. And we'll begin to have a conversation from those different places. So be asking them to place their hand there. Mm-hmm. A lot of times they might hear something like, I'm scared of XYZ. Or so for example, like if they feel it in their heart, someone might say like, I feel like I can't make the connections with people anymore if I go this direction. Like I'll lose my family or my friends. And then we have a conversation, okay, so what is the message underneath all of that, and how can we move into a space that's really serving you? Mm-hmm. And it's really crazy how in tune we can be and what messages we can get when we actually listen to the things that our bodies actually telling us and giving us messages for. I hope that answered your question.
Totally. That was such a good answer. So because I know this is a bit of an abstract concept for a lot of people. So how do we listen to our intuition even when it might not be like practical to do that?
Yeah. So the one thing I say is that practicality is kind of in the mind of the beholder. Mm-hmm. So what might be practical for one person is not necessarily practical for someone else. And the other thing is though, is that if you're going through a situation where there's really no intuitive course of action that goes through it. Like I know for some people, like if they're dealing with the law or they have to deal with bureaucracy of any kind, there's really no intuition whatsoever with it. However, that's the human side of who we are. So part of embodiment is also embracing that. But with intuition, when you are listening to your heart and you're listening to all those things, especially like if you're in a business or something where you wouldn't think would be practical. Mm-hmm. When we make intuitive-based decisions, you can actually thrive so much more than if you were to say like, okay, this is what, such and such expert told me, so I'm supposed to do it. And not to dismiss it, like there's really good information in there. But if there's something that is in your heart telling you like, move this direction, you're gonna actually find that there's some really cool things that can happen. And I mean, the people who create some of these new things mm-hmm. Are people who probably didn't listen to what everyone else said that wasn't practical. Like, I mean, the big example a lot of people give is Steve Jobs, right? And he actually created a very intuitive software program. But here's the thing though, is that intuition though is with us all the time, and whether you realize it or not. So that includes like when you show up during those times when you might just know something, you just get this hit, or there are other times where you like walk into a room and you'll get like these vibes from people. And you just know it. So using your intuition can be very practical in who you're dealing with or the situation that's in front of you. And it's also what gives us the connection to other people and gives us very clear guidance. And what's actually really cool now is that there's more and more scientific and psychological evidence that intuition is very real and is actually very practical in our everyday lives when we use it. Yeah.
That's so funny that you say that, because it's no wonder that this is really coming into my life and we're having this conversation right now, because one of my core desired feelings when I did my desire mapping project with my friend who is licensed was effortlessly guided. And basically that's just saying, listening in to my intuition. So it's so funny. It's awesome. I love that's something I got from you saying that. So that's cool.
That's awesome.
And also, like, since I've started doing that too, I want to share this because yesterday, it was actually just yesterday, I was taking a walk and all of a sudden and you can like comment on this and tell me like why that was happening or what about it was intuitive or something. But so I was going for a walk and I was just walking, listening to some awesome podcasts, and all of a sudden I had to like stop because I felt like my heart was like beaming like hot fire, like in a good way, not like heartburn, but like in a really good way. My heart space felt warm and I had to stop, and I got this vision, like someone popped into my mind. It was one of the women who was at the retreat actually. And I don't know why, but I just like felt such gratitude for her in my life and such like so proud of her. I just like stopped in that moment and was like, I have to sit down and like send her this message because this is like crazy. Like this is so awesome that I just felt that like so fully without having any real like prompt from my external environment. Like it wasn't like anything in the podcast triggered that or anything. I was just walking. So what do you have to, I mean, I don't know if there's really anything there, but what do you think about that?
I think that's amazing. I love moments like that. I think, especially as where our consciousness is kind of shifting, that more of these things happen so much. And when they happen, it's just so beautiful to hear and see these things happening. So thank you for sharing that. That was awesome. And the other thing too is because everything is energy, we're all connected. And when you're open to things like that, that's part of getting like an intuitive hit, is that you are connected to other beings or in other people, because, you know, that's a very cliche thing, but we're all connected, we're all one, but every single thing is connected energetically. Mm-hmm. So you were really feeling pulled to her in that moment.
Yeah, it was so cool. I don't think anything's really happened to me before that was that powerful and strong. So I feel like it must be a testament to me really tapping into this more, which is really cool.
It's powerful stuff. It's really powerful when you really begin to do this work, and it can sometimes take you off guard, but it's also really magical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so cool. And I feel like I've definitely learned that through you too, at the retreat, being in such close proximity and like just having the experiences I've had with you. I guess sort of like being coached in some ways just on the fly, because we've spent so much time together and gone through so much together. So it's pretty cool. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So what are some ways that we can start to connect to our body's intuition?
Yeah, so I kind of started mentioning that a little bit before, but one thing, I actually did this with the women at the Captivate retreat, but I feel like it's just really simple, and it's a really good start. And you can really do this at any moment. You can do it at the beginning of the day, or if you really just want to drop in and practice this, you can, not driving necessarily, but when you have space where you can at least give yourself like maybe 30 seconds to a minute to drop in. One thing, so you can start off by sitting in a chair or on the floor, wherever you are. You can use the back of the chair, but just make sure you're not slumping down like this, because it's hard for breathing and it's not good for your spine, but it also constricts certain energetic areas because you're closing in on it. and you can't bring in that awareness. So just make sure that you're resting gently on something or sitting straight up. And place both feet on the ground. And just bring your awareness to your feet. So moving from your mind down to your feet, bringing your awareness to your whole body down to your feet. And then just begin to scan your body from the crown of your head all the way to your toes, and just begin to become aware of where you're holding on to tension in your body. And we're not judging it, we're just looking at it like an observer, looking under a microscope, or just watching clouds pass by or children playing on a playground. Just watching. And if there's an area in your body that feels really tense or is really calling for your attention, rest on that spot. So it can be anywhere from, your back, your hip, your knees, your shoulders, but even your eyes or your cheeks or your throat, or like a wrist or toe or pinky or finger. And if you want to, you can also place one of your hands or both hands on the area. So even if it's on your back, just kind of notice that and place your hands there. And just ask a really subtle question like, what do you want me to know? And maybe take a few breaths with this. But usually the first thought that you'll have, and it's usually a very soft, gentle message, is usually a message that it wants to tell you. And just listen to what the message is. And bring that message into your heart. Just feel what it feels like throughout your body to hear that message. Like maybe you get a sensation or an emotion in your body. And when you feel like you've had a moment with that voice or whatever's happening in your body, just take a moment to say thank you. And then you can bring your hands back down to your thighs. Take a deep breath in. Maybe move your body in a way that feels really good, using your body's intuition to move. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
I love that.
Yeah, and you can really do this whenever. So this was guided, but the more you practice it, the more you can do it within like 30 seconds, maybe to a minute. And there are a lot of other ways that you can access your intuition from your body, but this is a really great way. So anytime you're not sure what to do, just take a moment and ask your body. Even if it doesn't feel practical, there's a reason why it's coming up for you.
Mm-hmm. My body said, be gentle and loving with me. And I also got like, don't push too hard. Don't push too hard. Just be gentle and loving.
Wow.
Cool.
So even even though it sounds really gentle, I mean, imagine getting that message, like let's say someone else told that to you. It would come from a very different place and maybe not be as powerful, or maybe it is, I don't know. But it also is really telling as to how wise our intuition is, because it's really a great source. And we are souls embodied. We are energy embodied. We are our intuition embodied. That's all we are. Like, we have access to this whenever we want.
Yeah. It's a perfect lead into what my next question was going to be, was what does it really mean to be embodied? Like, how do you define that? Because I know that this is something really important to you and your personal journey. And I also have had a lot of experience with this process because of, first of all, I really like the word embodied. And second of all, it really came up a lot at the retreat, and it came up a lot for me lately just in this evolution of my business and what it really means to be an embodied leader, and what it means to like really walk my talk and really be fully, in my body and fully present and fully listening in and all of that good stuff. So what is your interpretation?
Yeah. That's such a good question because, I mean, Emily talked a little bit about the retreat, but for me, it was like definitely a huge awakening for me to realize that knowing that this is my journey and this is what I teach, but really understanding that this is where huge lessons are for me as well. And what the difference is between being grounded and present and being embodied. There's actually a big difference for me. Like I'm pretty good at grounding, especially as a Reiki practitioner. Like you have to, because otherwise you can float away and not be present as you're doing energy work, which is, you know, can tire you out if you're not grounded enough. But embodiment is a little bit different, the way that I've experienced it, especially since our retreat. Embodiment, again, I know we talked about this, is really like the tangible part of who we are, being able to be tangible and to understand something that may be so esoteric, but you can actually understand it. But when we're embodied, it's not just like how people perceive us and can see that like, okay, you're walking your talk. But the embodiment really starts from within here. And again, it starts with connecting to the body and the energetic system, and bringing your awareness into your body. Because so often, like especially in the crazy Western world that we live in, it's like you have to go from point A, you have to get this done, like you have to, like, you might have a fear of missing out and you have to get things done. And I know like it happens to me so a lot of the time, like it's not something I'm like a perfectionist in or like perfect in, because who are we to ever be perfect in anything? Like everything's always a big journey for us and a learning point. But for me, it's like when I can actually physically feel my feet and feel every single part of my body, and then I can actually speak from a place that doesn't feel so scripted. It feels so much bigger than me. And I have to tell you, like when I'm here, it can sometimes intimidate people. But when you're also here, it also allows you to embrace all those people too, and embrace yourself in everything, in both the light side and our shadow sides. Like it's one of those things where I can try to explain to you on and on and on, but it's something you have to experience. And I know everyone at some point has experienced that, and it's usually like in a flow state, especially like when they're really aligned with their soul's purpose. A lot of times you'll find yourselves there too. So maybe you can kind of tap into those moments and relate to that, or to embodiment that way.
I love that. That's so beautiful. I love the way you describe that. And it's so cool that that's how I think the retreat was a big lesson and experience in embodiment for a lot of us. I know both of us had that experience of really feeling like you understood something on such a deeper level, and it wasn't just like you understood it in a cognitive way. It was so much more and broader and deeper and bigger and more beautiful than just knowing something and really feeling something, right? Like it's that kind of difference of like head space, heart space. Like, is it that I think it and know it as a fact, or is it that I fully feel it? Like I'm fully experiencing it, I'm fully living it, I'm fully integrating. Versus I think it and I know it and I kind of practice it, but it's not like part of me, right? It's like external still. And that's so like, that's what we've been talking about a lot this week in our mastermind too. So it's really timely. Like this it is. So it's awesome.
Yeah, and experience for me in teaching experience is so important, because I mean I grew up as a very big intellectual. Like I went straight from preschool through grad school with like magna cum laudes and whatever. Like I'm such an intellectual person. So to come back to the body is really interesting. And throughout my journey as a coach, I've really learned to value what experience really means, and from my own mentors and from my own experiences. And It's also something I teach to my clients, is to really be present with their experiences, so they're not just moving through it, but they're really either enjoying it or really understanding what's happening, even if it's not the most comfortable of situations, because experience is what is going to teach us more so than a textbook, which is great, but it won't teach us as much as our own experiences in terms of growth.
I couldn't agree more. I really couldn't. And I feel like I was just recently home visiting with my family, and I found that what I realized after coming from the retreat and going back into that family environment was that I have been raised, and I think this is not just true for me at all, it's true for all of us, is that we are raised to place so much value on our minds instead of on our hearts and like our souls and our purpose and those bigger, more esoteric ideas that are more abstract. And when we live from that such a human place of, you know, that thinking and that ego and that trying to control and trying to have some kind of authority or knowledge about something, instead of really tapping into our own experience and our own knowledge and our deeper wisdom and our intuition like we're talking about today, it's such a different experience. And that's when I feel like I get frustrated with people who are so in academia that they don't have any idea. And it's really clear to see that difference and that lack of balance there with people who are so involved in the academic side of things that they can't even relate to the real like emotions and the human experience as a whole, but only that very like cognitive experience of like, I know something, therefore this is, it's like almost like a hierarchy feeling to me.
Yeah.
That could be a very off-topic comment.
But no, it's very interesting because there's a lot, you know, like I came from a very academic background. Like I came from a family also who really valued education. But I mean, where I was before is not necessarily where I am now, because everyone is on their own journey and path to whatever it is. You know, like we can say everyone's journey is to enlightenment, but we're here as humans to experience something human. So it's also the really beautiful thing of being ready to receive the idea that there's a lot more out there beyond just cognition. But there's also something really beautiful in just experiencing the intellect, which can teach people down the road to open up things. So you have a journey for everything. And it's really interesting to see both sides of that coin, especially since we've all come from like a very intellectual background, but also really embrace this side. And that's also why I really love science and the woo-woo. Like they're both just really awesome. Yeah. They're both so great.
Yeah, and I think, what was I going to say? I had something. Oh, well, I forgot. So I know you have a special gift that you want to offer everybody who's tuning into this interview. So why don't you share what that is and a little bit about that and how they can receive that from you?
Yeah. So I actually have this really awesome guide called The Guide to Living Abundantly from Your Gut. And it's a great interactive guide. Like it has a lot of written exercises, but I also included videos and audios of meditations and chants to allow you to move through the blocks of what's keeping you from really living abundantly and doing your passion, to really doing that confidently and clearly and actually getting you on the path to do that. Because I think everybody deserves to be able to have that in their lives. And so I really would love to gift that to anybody who's listening to this in your tribe and whoever else is hearing this as well. So, and I don't know, are you going to be sending that out, that link out to everybody?
Yes, I will put the link below this video and on my blog post with this video in it. And I also have a really special gift for everyone that can be found below this video and on my blog as well, which is all about really answering the call of your dreams, which ties in really well with this topic today. So that's going to be available to you, both gifts, so make sure you sign up to receive both of those. And such a good, like, kickstart for anywhere that you're feeling stuck in your life right now. I can just see this being a really good combination.
Yeah.
And then how can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about your work and what you do and who you are and your path?
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Jaclyn Wallach Life Coaching. You can also find me on Instagram at j.m.wallach. That's my handle. And then if you also want to reach out to me, if you have any questions, you can also email me at Jaclyn@jaclynwallach.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This was so valuable. I can't wait to watch this again and again and again just to remind myself of how to tap into my intuition more and how to really live abundantly from that place of my tap into my body's wisdom and really use that and leverage that more in my life and my day-to-day and my business. I remember what I was going to say before. I was going to say that I love the quote, and I don't know where it comes from, so I'm really sorry. If you know, comment below this video and let us know, that we're all souls having a human experience. I just thought that tied in really well with what we were talking about today and what you had said before when I thought of it and then I forgot.
It's a good quote.
So, yeah, and I think I would also love to know, Jaclyn, before we wrap up, what is your favorite act of self-care and why is sisterhood an important part of your life and what you do?
Both really great questions. I love them. So self-care, well, first of all, I didn't really have much of self-care till I started doing this mastermind with you and all the women. So let's just jump the question really quickly. So one of the things of my mastermind is that they taught me how important it is to be in self-care, and that working and always doing these things is great, but part of walking your talk is also loving up yourself and really giving yourself that time to take care of yourself so you can take care of others. So that's one thing. But what do I do for self-care? I do a lot of things, but I think some of the biggest things I love doing is actually going. I know for some people it could be getting their hair done or their nails done, which I love to do, but I really just love going outside and sitting on the grass in the shade. Because for me, this journey of embodiment is still here for me. Sometimes I'm not always embodied and I'm all over the place, and it helps me to kind of just come back and really see everything. And it actually really nourishes me. Feels really good. I do that, probably that, and going to Whole Foods when I can is probably my two biggest things. They're about nourishment of the body and the energetic bodies, for sure.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And what about sisterhood? What is really, why is it so important to you? Because I know this is something that you are really passionate about as well.
Yeah. So sisterhood has actually brought me to where I am today, and I don't think that I would be where I am without sisterhood. They've taught me how to receive. They've taught me how to give, and taught me what it means to really have unconditional love. And I mean, I had talked about this actually at the retreat, but it's the first time I've ever felt that even though I know my family loves me unconditionally, it's just such a different feeling, having them see you at your worst, and in the moments where you're even the most self-conscious, and them calling you out or just loving you up, and just holding you. Oh my God, it's the most incredible thing in the world. I can't even describe it. Except that it's the most fantastic feeling in the world to know that women are supporting each other and sharing with one another. And I also hold women's circles, so that's really such an important gift to any woman, I think, to have that space with other women.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I just really wanted to get that in before the end of the interview. And I forgot to ask earlier because we were in such good conversation. All right, beautiful. So now that you know how to follow up with Jaclyn and you've experienced some of her brilliance, I hope you take advantage of her free gift to all of you. It's amazing. I've seen it already. I have one I've opted in and gotten it myself. So it's absolutely brilliant, and will teach you how to do more of what we talked about today and implement it in your own life on a daily basis, and really make it a practice for yourself so you can really build this new skill set. So thank you so much for being here, Jaclyn, and thank you everyone who is tuning in and watching. And we will talk to you soon on the blog comments, in the video comments, wherever you want to catch up with us. Maybe it's a private email or Instagram post or something, but let us know what you thought of this video and how this has changed things for you, and how this has shifted something, or what your favorite part was, or anything you want to share that's come out of this experience for you. And we will see you soon. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Have a beautiful week.